Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to the Versus Stars podcast. All my loyal listeners, thank you for your continued support. And remember, click the subscribe button, everybody. It's an amazing episode because Mercedes De La Cruz boards the mothership. You know her from the arc on Syfy. Come aboard as we go traversing the stars. Hello, Mercedes. Thank you so much for coming to the Versus Stars podcast.
Hi.
It's definitely a pleasure to speak with you. I've been a fan of yours since I got to watch the arc, and you're awesome.
Thank you.
So I always start off with the question of inspiration. So what inspired your love for acting and who your earliest influences?
Well, I've been on the stage since I was 3. So I don't remember what it is like to not be performing, like someone asked me the other day, I think it was my ex. He was like, "Oh, what were you doing before dancing?" Because like that's when I started on stage, and I was like, is there before dancing? Like I don't remember any of that. So yeah, I mean, I started ballet when I was 3, and I remember being in our recital at the end of the year on stage, and we had this. The song was "Be My Little Baby Bumblebee," and we had like a bumblebee attached to our wrists, and we were sort of like singing to it, and I mean, we're 3, so it's not like extensive ballet moves, but at one point, the bumblebee fell off of my wrist. And rather than just like going down to get it and putting it back on, my mom told me later, I don't remember this, but I waited for a move where like we jumped up and then went down, and then I grabbed it and like sneakily put it back on. And she was like, how did you think, like you're 3 years old and you didn't want to mess up, the dance. So anyway, I just, what I do remember though, is just that feeling of exhilaration being on stage and having the whole crowd there and the lights and the energy of the room and everybody singing and dancing. And it was like, this is what I was supposed to do. So yeah, I've always been doing that. And, I had some babysitters and people that like were in the neighborhood that were also dancers. And so they were kind of an inspiration. And then I went on to do a lot more like musical theater. And at the time it was called song and dance, then musical theater, and then theater. And, I don't know if there was this real specific person that influenced me in that way, but I did really like Oprah. And I liked the show Star Search.
Oh, yes.
And that was like such a big show to watch on like Friday nights. I remember watching it with my dad. When I was really young, he would sit in front of me and I would do his hair. Like he had kind of like longer hockey hair, and I would put little clips and like whatever ponytails and stuff in it. I just have that picture of it right now. It's totally not related to this. But I wrote this letter to Oprah, and I had this idea for a show that they would have kids on the show, sort of like Star Search. But I wrote on the stationery, it was cat stationery, and it had like a scent to it. And I used different color pens. And I think I even added a little like perfume spray. And just said like, it would be really great if you had like kids who want to be actors, or maybe, because I thought maybe I had to be a model and then become an actor. So I wrote, or maybe kids who want to model and then become an actor. And I wrote this all to Oprah. I don't know if I ever sent it or if it was sent, or I have the letter. So I maybe made 2, like I'm not really sure. But yeah, I thought she could like propel my career. I was like 7.
I think that's fantastic that even at the age of 7, you're saying to yourself, you know what, I can reach out to Oprah. she'll hook me up. That's
totally
awesome. That's some serious confidence right there.
Yeah, well, I knew what I wanted. And then, I think I would have liked to take more acting when I was younger, but I think my mom, like, I wanted to make her happy, and I thought that she really liked, me and dancing and, whatever. So it wasn't until probably like my later teens and 20s that I really started focusing a lot more on it. And then I moved my home base from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, to Vancouver to act, I guess, like full time. That was my hope. anyway.
Oh, at the time you made that move to Vancouver, because I mean, right now, Vancouver is one of the hot spots now for movies and film. When you went to Vancouver, was it that way at the time, or did you just, for something about Vancouver, you just knew you gravitated towards?
Well, it was already considered Hollywood North. So, I knew it was a great place to go. And actually, I have a very close friend, dear friend. He's a photographer, and he'd been taking my photos since I was 17 years old. And we're very close. Actually, I was just texting with him a minute ago before I got on this call. And he said, he asked me, like, what would, because at the time I was feeling a little bit low, like low energy, and there was just, I guess I want to say I was depressed. Yeah, okay, I was depressed. And he really wanted to get me out of the funk, and so he asked me, like, what it is that I would want to do, that every day, if I were to wake up and I had this thing to do, that I would want to get out of bed and do it. And without even hesitation, I was like, acting, 100%, hands down. And so he was like, okay, well, you got to move. Like, you've tapped out Edmonton. There's no work here for you. And so I thought about either Toronto or Vancouver. But I don't know, Vancouver, like, it just seems like such a cool place at the time. I didn't even think about the fact that they have like the mountains and the ocean, and that I could go skiing and I could, go to the beach. Like, I didn't even think about that. I loved Vancouver, and I'd spent quite a bit of time here. I didn't know anybody, like when I moved out, I knew, like, I think one or two people in the city, and I didn't have an agent. I didn't know what I was going to be doing for work. But a friend of mine who I took an acting class with introduced me to a woman who had a marketing and promotions company, and they had spokesmodels that would work like events and things like that. And so her name is Tracy Miles. And I reached out to her, and she was like, yeah, come on down, I'll give you a job. So I thought, okay, I got a job. I knew somebody who was leaving a place that they were living, and the rent was like $300 and some if I was going to split it with my partner at the time. So yeah, I just packed up what I could fit in my Volvo and drove to Vancouver, and got there and was like, okay, I don't know what's next, but let's make it happen. And it was during that time, this was, God, 12, 13, 14 years ago, something like that. The internet was a thing, but like, people didn't really all have their own computers yet. So you go to like an internet cafe, to do your work. So I went to this internet cafe, and I typed up my resume and sent it off, and, had interviews with different agents. And, because of my look, being like a mix, I had a little easier time, I think. That's kind of one of those things where there's fewer Hispanic people living here in Vancouver than, let's say, Toronto. So I thought, okay, this is going to give me an edge. Like, that was another sort of reason I picked Vancouver, was I thought, okay, there's like a lot of Hispanic people in Toronto, but Vancouver, there's like 10. So, and I'm making it up. There's more than I thought, okay, I could be unique. So yeah, I ended up finding an agent pretty quickly, and I did a bunch of background work just to figure out what it was like to work on a TV show, and made some friends really fast in the industry. And really, it was just all about connections, like meeting people and people helping people. I really believe that that's how the world works. Like, yeah, it takes a village, basically. You can't do it on your own, And I've just been so blessed with wonderful people in my life that have really helped me and shown me love and different paths and all of that. And so Vancouver actually was great, and I love it. I absolutely love Vancouver, for sure.
Now, I mean, one of the cool things is that once again, having that dancing background, and having someone who, personally, I don't dance at all, because I'm just not rhythmic in any way, shape, or form. But my understanding of dance is that it takes the ability to be in sync with other people, other dancers. Now, how does that connect, or does it translate to acting, being able to understand and get in sync with the people on the stage with you?
Sure. I mean, I think performance in general any kind is very valuable. I think also even just with confidence, on the stage. So there is, like what you're saying, working together as a team. Um, I feel like there's like a flow that happens. And if you can get in that flow with yourself, being present, moving, and then with the people around you, then it's like seamless and effortless. And, and acting's really a dance in itself. There's a big difference, and you can see the difference when you're watching like a good acting performance as opposed to one that looks staged, and it is that you have to be in that same energetic bubble as the person that you're acting with. So you're not just, I have my line and you wait for them to finish theirs and then you just say it. And it's about listening. It's about connecting, and really listening to what the person is saying and then responding from a place of authenticity. So, I might do the same scene a bunch of times with the same person, but at that moment, maybe he's feeling something a little bit different. And if I'm in the scene with him, and I see that he starts to choke up, or I see that he starts to laugh or something like that, and I say he, it could be a she, then that's going to determine what my response is based on what he's doing or she's doing, and then it changes. So scene study class is so beautiful for that because, let's say he changes his intention, or has a different thought or a different objective or whatever. If I'm really in it with him, it's going to shift everything that happens with me too. And it's going to be really beautiful because that's going to be that dance. So absolutely, it does translate in a kind of a bit of a dance way without actually doing the moves. But it also has something to do with the moves too. Like it's a flow of energy and you're doing it together, and that's good acting.
Have you ever had that a situation where the person you're acting against does a change that you weren't expecting, and is it hard not to freeze for a moment? I mean, are you able to just like adapt immediately to it? How does that work?
I just adapt immediately. Absolutely. Especially if it's in like a scene study class. Actually, I don't even think it matters if it's scene study or if you're on set, because, the director, for example, might throw in a redirect, and it may be something that you had not thought. Like, let's say I'm having a scene with you and you're telling me something and I'm laughing at your joke. Well, what if the director comes in and says, okay, now you don't think his joke is very funny. Right? So all of a sudden I've been playing it that I thought your joke is funny, and now you're going to say your joke, and I'm like, oh, like, who knows? Is it a delayed reaction? Is it a this? Is it a that? Like, right? And all of a sudden it's completely different. So you have to be malleable. You have to be ready to take on whatever is thrown at you. And that's kind of the fun part. I love a redirect.
Is that learned or is that instinctual?
Well, I think in acting, it's all about an improv for sure. It's yes and, right? So something is the way that it is, and then something might shift, and then you have to be like, roll with it. So you say yes and, you take it and then you roll with it. In the beginning, maybe you could be scared to do that. I know, I'm trying to remember, it's so long ago really that I started acting, but in the very beginning, I think I was more worried about getting it right and looking perfect, and even looking perfect, like, with my hair and my makeup. And like, if it was an audition, it was like, oh my God, like if I had a zit, I would be like, now I'm finding more and more that I do auditions with no makeup. I like to look as raw as possible. I want those roles where, I'm not the pretty chick, it's fun to be messy and all of that. But it took me some time to get comfortable enough with myself to show that side of me, right? I was raised in a way where I thought I needed to be perfect. And I'm not blaming my parents for how they raised me at all. It's just that's just the way that it was. And I was always, I was always, I don't know, I guess trying to prove something, my value or my worth or whatever. And I think with age and with experience and being comfortable with yourself, you can kind of start shedding all of that. So it might have been challenging for me in the beginning to get a redirect maybe, or I would be like, I don't understand, or that feels weird, or that's not how I planned it, or whatever. But now I like to play. So redirects are fun.
I mean, obviously you've been super successful. You now star in the movie The Machine. So how did you get involved in the film, and what was interesting about it?
Oh boy. Well, I rewind a few years now. I left Vancouver and I went to Belgrade, Serbia to live with my partner at the time. And I really didn't think that I was going to be doing any acting. I thought like I was moving for love, like I didn't think like I'll be working in Serbia. I don't speak the language, I had my doubts about it. And lo and behold, when I got there, there was so much production that was being filmed or getting ready to be filmed, because this was just like COVID time, right? And here in Vancouver or in the West or in most places, all production was shut down. But there it was like the Wild West. They're like, bring it on. They didn't really care. They still did their COVID tests, and they still wore the masks and all of that, but they just had a lot less complications, and they're not even part of the EU. So it is the Wild West without it being West. Anyways, regardless of that, they had a bunch of productions, and The Machine was one of the ones that was going to be filmed there, as well as the TV series The Ark that I'm in was also filmed in Serbia as well. Anyway, I got the breakdown for it, and there was a breakdown for the teacher. Then another one was like this Russian woman who was going to be Igor's wife, which I also auditioned for with this like really awesome Russian accent.
Oh, cool. Can you do it for us?
It was so fun. I haven't actually worked with a Russian accent before, but I had friends that are Russian that helped me for my audition, and I started playing with it and I really liked it. And then I did a couple auditions and they liked me for the teacher, and Bob's your uncle. I got the role. Yeah, it was super. I mean, that having Bert Kreischer, who's the star of the show, having him there, he also like was the writer and the producer of it, and he's just an amazing guy, super funny and very loving and really hands-on. So he made it really super fun. And in the movie, I don't actually act with Bert. I act with the younger version of Bert. Jimmy Tatro is his name, who played the younger version of Bert, and all of our scenes were together. But Bert was there, and we still, chatted all the time and stuff like that. So yeah, it was great, except for one thing. On my last shooting day, I had been feeling a little bit ill the week before. And I was like, oh, maybe it's a flu or maybe it's whatever. And I just stayed at home and I took care of myself and, just tried to feel good. But I had been vomiting, things like that. And then I got to work that day and my stomach hurt so bad. So the on-set medic came, and she didn't really speak any English at all. And they're trying to translate for me. And I'm like sweating and crying a little bit and, trying to also, I don't know, downplay the fact that I wasn't feeling well.
Yeah.
So she gave me like a little exam and right away sent me to the hospital. She was like, something's wrong. You need to go now. And I was like, no. I have to film today. And she was pissed off. She's like, nope, you got to go, blah, blah, blah. I was arguing with her. I didn't want to go. I wanted to finish my last day on set, this and that. Anyways, they rushed me to the hospital. And I ended up having to get my appendix removed.
Oh, wow.
And it was like, it had to happen then, it was rush surgery. So here I am in this hospital in Serbia. I don't speak the language. It's COVID time. So I couldn't have anybody with me. And they kept me overnight. They ballooned me up like as if I was 9 months pregnant and did like that telescopic surgery. Yeah. And then I was supposed to rest for like a week. Well, I didn't want to rest for like a week. I wanted to go back to work. So the day I got home, I'd been home for a day, and I got an email, and the email was a rewrite of my scene, and I wasn't in it. And I was like, this isn't happening, I called the producer of the show and I was like, hey, so I see that there's a rewrite here and I'm not in it. And he's like, well, how do you feel? And I'm an actress, right? So I'm like, great. Sounding the same as I'm sounding with you right now. And he's like, well, you sound really good. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm awesome. Totally ready to go back to work, whatever. And he's like, okay, well, let me see what I can do. So about an hour later, he calls me back and he says, so you're good, right? I'm like, yeah, totally. Because I got you written back in. I'm like, okay, great. When is it? He goes, we're picking you up at 7 a.m. tomorrow. And I was not ready. I haven't even had a bowel movement yet since my surgery. I'm not eating, like I've only had liquids. I was walking, but like not so good, having a tough time, going to the bathroom, the whole 9 yards. Like I wasn't ready to work. Right. Of course I said yes. And I got the okay from the doctor, and the doctor's like, all right, Mercedes, you can go, but take care of yourself. Don't spend all day at work. Go in, do your scene, leave. And just like no running, no yelling, no whatever. Like just be kind to your body. I'm like, yeah, okay. So I spent that whole night like meditating and doing energy work. And I used to have an energy healing business. So I was doing all the things, trying to feel good. And also when I was in hospital, that's what I was doing too, so I could get back to work quicker. Anyways, the next day they picked me up at 7, and it ends up being a very long day. Like they had me in hair and makeup right away. They had me separated from everybody because I had just been in the hospital. So they wanted to make sure, that I wasn't around anyone that I could infect or something, as if I was diseased. And then, I think I ended up getting home at like 8 p.m. So it wasn't that short day that the doctor wanted me to do. And then I get to set, and Peter, the director, is like, all right, cool. So we have a change of plans. And what we want you to do is we want you to run in at your top speed, screaming at the top of your lungs. And then this guy's going to spit vodka in your face. And then we want you to do the rest of your lines, scream and run out. Okay. This is all the things that the doctor was like, don't do.
Yeah.
Did it anyway. Bert was awesome. He couldn't believe that I came in. He was so thankful that, I decided to make it happen, whatever. He was calling me a gangster. He's like, you're the most gangster person. If this was me, I would have been on a plane out of here. So anyways, that was my experience, but it ended up working out just fine, and I got to finish my scenes.
So. Well, you're lucky that the nurse was so definitive that you're getting to the doctor, because otherwise you probably would have collapsed right there with the appendix burst.
It would have had I would have had real problems. And I worked with her again just this past summer when I was working on the Ark. She was back on set, and she's learned a little more English now. And she at first she saw me and she was like, she's still mad at me. But then we became like pretty close, and she was really sweet, and yeah, she took good care of me when I was on that show.
now because you couldn't you couldn't speak their language, the Serbian language, when they were talking about doing surgery, did you have any idea what they were even talking about when they were like, oh, your appendix burst, we're gonna do a surgery? Or did you like, how do you even handle?
I knew absolutely nothing. I knew absolutely nothing. And they barely spoke any English. It was mostly like sign language. When they brought me in to my own room or whatever before the surgery, she was telling me to change, but I didn't understand what she was saying. And so eventually she goes over and she picks up the nightie, and she was like, shows me how to put it on. I'm like, okay. And then the pants, and then she's like, tie it, So I did that, and they put me in a wheelchair and they wheeled me in, and nobody really knew and like, especially the people that were like the nurses and stuff, they didn't speak any English. The doctor was okay, but still limited. There is not really any bedside manner there. They don't have political correctness either, you know. So even like if you go to the doctor and it's something like, I don't know, you need to take your pants off or whatever. Yeah. Like here, where you go in and then they give you a little cover and blah blah blah. They're just like, okay, drop your drawers. Like, okay, take your pants off. Where? Just right there. Okay, is there it's fine. Like, just whatever. I went and I was getting my eggs frozen actually a couple of years ago, and I had gone in and, you know, so I'm in an office with, I thought just gonna be the doctor, and they got the door open and people are walking by and my legs are in the stirrups, like,
oh my God.
Yeah, different country, different things for sure.
That's
So
crazy.
yeah, it was like that. It was like that as well when I was getting my appendix taken out. I didn't know what was happening. They didn't explain anything to me. And then they're strapping me to the bed. And at the same time they're strapping me to the bed, they pull out this razor and they start shaving like down there.
Right.
Around without explaining this to me. So I'm being strapped in and this razor's coming and I'm just like, what's happening here?
That's like how a horror movie starts.
Yeah, for sure. And then woman comes over who is the anesthesiologist, and luckily she spoke English, so she explained a little bit to me. And apparently she wanted to become an actor before she did this anesthesiology. So she was telling me about it as I was falling asleep. She was the only one that spoke good English there, and I never saw her again. But
God, I hope the experience was worth it for this film to go through all of that.
It was, and you know what? Like, production covered everything. That's the beauty about having something like that happen during that time. Like, you know, if let's say I was in the U.S. or something and that happened and I didn't have insurance, like it would have been lots of money, you know. Yeah. And then production was great. They sent me flowers and checked up on me, and
as you said, it was a good experience. You had Bert was on the set. Mark Hamill's in the movie as well. Did you have was he on the set with you guys as well?
I didn't have any scenes with him, sadly. I wanted it. And so all of my friends were like, oh my God, you know, especially the friends of mine that are Star Wars fans or into sci-fi or whatever. They're like, sneak a picture, or if you can get him to sign my name. It's just like as if I'm gonna walk over, hey, can you write Peter on here? Like,
but it is, because it is a comedy, is how much more difficult is a comedy to act than maybe a drama? Is there more timing involved? Is there aspects involved that are more challenging than if you were doing, let's say, a drama?
Well, I think they're different beasts. My character is not funny. She's not, you know, she doesn't have to deliver any funny lines. Also, I kind of think the best kind of comedy is when you're not putting it on, you know, if you're just being natural and then the words speak for itself. So, I mean, I guess it would depend. I think that the hardest part for me doing comedy is not laughing.
Okay.
Right. So if somebody else is hilarious in it and like to keep a straight face. I worked on this TV series called The Detour, and I was the director's assistant on it. And there was two directors, Jason Jones and then Brennan. We would have all these production meetings, and these guys were also the writers, and they were just so flippin' hilarious that in every meeting I was like busting a gut. And I think I was good for their egos because I was constantly like, you know, losing my shit basically in all these meetings. But it would happen on set too, you know, like I would be watching from a distance and I'm like, you know, trying to be quiet so that, you know, the mic doesn't pick up my laughter. But I think that's the hardest part, is just keeping your act together.
But I mean, like I said, I mean, you got to be in the machine, and then at the same time, you're also in the Ark, which is definitely not a comedy in any way, shape, or form. You played Helena Trust.
Helena, yeah.
Helena, sorry, I'm already bad with names. This is how it goes. You probably already know.
You know what? It's not you. It's everybody. That name was complicated from the start because in Serbia, certain names, how we would pronounce them, would be pronounced very different. So, like Yelena, it's like they're Helena, like they say them differently. They put the accent or the emphasis on a different syllable, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so when I first saw the script, I was like, oh, is it Helena or is it Helena? Now she's American, and so in the US it would be Helena. But this was like something that I needed to discuss with the writers and production, and because we didn't know how to pronounce my name. And then my husband in the show, he's British and he lives in Serbia. And so he kept saying Helena, but I'm like, you can't call me that. If you're my husband and I go by Helena, I think I would have scolded you a long time ago. So yeah, there was a constant like that. And same thing. So Eva, the name Eva is pronounced Ava there. And there's an Eva in the show too. So same thing. There was complications on that. So anyway, it's not just you.
I want to say there's also, like I said, in the show, because I interviewed Helena Moore, I think, as well, from the Ark as well. So there's a lot of names confusion over there. Helena Moore. Yelena. Well, one more time.
Her name is Yelena. It's a J.
I probably totally screwed it up. But she was nice enough not to correct me. But
that's what I'm saying. Those names are like they're differently pronounced. Yeah.
But it's interesting that she is as well is from Serbia. And this cool thing about the Ark is that it's such a diversity of actors from so many different areas and regions. Like I said, the guy who played her husband was British. There's a Serbian. All these backgrounds. What was that experience like?
Oh, it's great. I got to meet some really awesome people, make some really great friends from different places. Also, the lead, Christy Burke, she's based here in Vancouver as well. And I knew her actually prior to that. She worked for a casting agency that I had done some casting with, obviously, for acting in Vancouver. So we had met prior. Also, Samantha Glasner, who plays Kelly in it, she's American and also Canadian. And so I think her dad was Canadian, her mom was Canadian, vice versa. And her dad is one of the executive producers and writers on the show. But she's living here in Vancouver too. So it was neat, like seeing people from there, meeting friends from abroad, and then coming back to Vancouver and being able to actually watch the show with some people that were in the show with me. We had viewing parties and it was really fun.
That's also, and honestly, the fan base for the Ark was big. I mean, it got a second season. So what is it like as well to have that, to know a show is successful enough to have that fan base?
Oh my gosh, I feel so blessed with the Syfy fans. They're incredible. I mean, that's the thing about Syfy is they're super fans.
Yeah.
They come up with backstories. They have these like ideas of things that may or may not have happened. It almost feels like they thought about more than like even the writers did. What the writers did, then their ideas of things really get to, escalate, I guess you could say. It's been pretty cool. I did a couple of podcasts where the fans were able to correspond, and it was like live feed, and they were able to ask questions and stuff. Anyway, yeah, some of the comments from the fans have been pretty interesting. Like I play a villain, you could say, in the show, and in different countries they're calling me like a snake or like a devil woman and things like that, and it's a compliment. Like I think it's just so funny. It makes me feel really good that I was able to portray that that kind of intensity in a character where people actually like hate me, like you did a good job when,
right.
Now, and then in a couple of different fan pages, like on Facebook and stuff, that I've been whatever, commenting and whatnot and they're fantastic. They post photos. It was Mother's Day and they posted a photo of me and my little dog Lucy. Here she is. Me and my little dog Lucy. It was like a happy Mother's Day to me.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, I just feel so blessed with those fans. Unfortunately, I won't be in season 2, but
well, I mean, at least I know your fate, but they always do flashbacks. I mean, is there potential for flashbacks with your character in it? Because obviously she's pretty instrumental to what happens with the arc 1, and even though she's gone, are you telling me there's no potential for flashbacks?
well, let's see.
do,
You know,
do you know anything that's potential that they're discussing for flashbacks?
I can't discuss a thing. Yeah, I mean, there could be, right? Like the I guess the cool thing about the death of Helena is the fact that it wasn't in vain. Her husband was avenging her death throughout the end of the first season, so there was that was pretty cool. And her husband is a scientist too, so you never know what could happen with bringing her back.
Exactly. They're going to a whole new planet. There's all those that incubator that they had. Well, they had with the frogs and everything else. Why can't you have one with his wife? Why wouldn't he? You never know.
Right. Helena DNA.
Right. Of course, you can totally do that. Now, I think one thing that's kind of fascinating is the relationship between, William played by Paul Leonard Murray and yourself and your character. The marriage is kind of unusual in the sense that obviously he cares a lot about her because he was definitely wanted revenge on it, at the same time cheating on her as well. How did you envision the relationship then, considering what you know about the different characters and all the stuff they were kind of getting involved in?
Well, I think it's a complex marriage between the two. Helena is very much in love with her husband and definitely has her eye on the prize, which is his success, obviously her success as well. And believe it or not, actually cares about mankind. So, it was like, oh, well, she seems vindictive or she whatever, like her methods may have been questionable. But essentially she wanted to save the world as well. And then her own celebrity for sure. And I think there's a sort of a dynamic between her and her husband where he's like the crazy scientist and she's the brains in the operation and kind of wears the pants in the relationship. If it wasn't for her, he wouldn't be where he is. So they are this team. And then there's also like, I don't want to say this sounds creepy, but a mother-son sort of relationship in it where he needs her. He needs her. She pushes him. She validates him. Also, they're extremely attracted to one another. There's a couple of scenes where they're like making out, like pretty right, like almost making people uncomfortable. So they're definitely hot for one another. But she's the backbone that he could never be. And whatever, he's an insecure guy, so he cheats, and he's a celebrity, he's a rock star, right? He's the most famous person in the galaxy. And of course, women are going to be like throwing themselves at him. So she gets it, and then she's not thrilled about the infidelity. And so of course, like, voices that, and he's scared to lose her. Like he even says to Kat, like, it's too close. She knows too much. Blah blah blah. Like he doesn't want to upset Helena. He doesn't want to lose their relationship, and they're madly in love. They're a team. They're a team.
Now, is there a aspect of her that you wish or would like to see explored further that you thought yourself needed more time?
Well, I think there's always more that you could always have more time to. I think I would love to have been able to show the side of her that really does speak to how much she cares, you
Hmm.
know, because of course she's manipulative. And when she has those scenes, with Griff, for example, trying to get her to poison Felix, um, she's trying to befriend her and she's like being all sweet and blah blah blah. But deep down, like she is a very loving human being, and she is just looking for love. She
Hmm.
wants to be accepted, all the things, but also she's this celebrity too, and so a lot of people don't quite understand her, or can be in that same uh category, I
Hmm.
guess. Right. So that's why Kat is like her best friend, because Kat's also a celebrity too. So, they go to the same kind of parties, and
Hmm.
they understand what it's like to be in the limelight and all of that and have power. Uh, I don't think she didn't think that Kat was having sex with her husband, but she definitely could see that she was
Hmm.
attracted to him or had feelings for him. And she even says that in, I think, episode 11. Um, so I don't know. It's kind of a complex situation on that end, but essentially, she's just like everybody else is on this earth, looking for love,
Hmm.
and has a lot of love to give, and just, it just sort of looks like unconventional, I guess. So yeah, I would like to have been able to show a little bit more of that, and then even a little bit more of the vindictive side of her, which
Hmm.
all of us have. Like, I'm a really nice girl in real life, and I'm a people pleaser, and I friends and family are all very important to me, and all of that. But I mean, there's been times in my life where I've done things that I'm like, oh my God, what did I just say, or what did I just do?
Hmm.
And it's out of fear, or it's out of a situation where maybe you feel that you're in danger or whatever. And I think that's the same reason why Helena acts the way that she does.
Hmm.
Like we're all human and we're all doing the same sort of thing. It just looks a little different.
Now, I know you said like obviously she wears the pants. She's for the, in that relationship, she's definitely the one more in charge.
Yeah.
Being that he's the scientist, he's probably more famous. Is she in his shadow, you think, on Earth? And how, if she is, how does she feel about that?
Uh, I don't know about that being in the shadow. I mean, it's like she's a different human being. So it would be like being the president's wife.
Mm,
You're not the president. You're the wife. And
right.
it's this sort of thing like that. Like I don't think that the first lady is like, I'm in the shadow of my president husband. Maybe some people are like that, but I think for her, like she wants to empower him. She
Mm,
wants to she's like orchestrates, like in the background, like all the other little puppets. She likes to be in control. And this gives her an opportunity to have that control. She likes to call the shots, so she's getting everything that she wants,
mm.
um, being with him. So it's, I think, an advantage.
Well, like I said, I really do hope in season 2 we see more of Helena Trust. I got it right that time because, like I said, Helena Trust, because you did such a fantastic job with the character. Mercedes, you're an absolute pleasure to talk with, and I can't wait to talk to what you do next.
Ah, thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a fantastic night.
Thank you. You too.